Hey rum lovers, and welcome back to the Rumcast. My name is John Gulla, and with me as always is Will Hookinga, and together we're driving this here podcast that talks all things rum related with the people who love and shape it. Today on the show, we have a full feature interview with Mike Gilmore, the founder of Roaming Road Spirits, who made a big splash in the U.S. rum scene last year with their first wave of releases, and are back again recently dropping another significant wave of rums onto the U.S. market. But before we get to that interview and the specifics, Will, how goes it on your end?
Things are good, John. You know, before we get into talking about Roaming Road and our interview with Mike Gilmore, I actually wanted to talk about another American independent bottler that I feel like was kind of the first one in this current wave of ones that we've seen over the last few years. I'm talking about Homesky, of course. Okay. And I bring them up because a few episodes back, you'll recall we did our Rumcast 2025 hot list where we each picked 10 bottles that we thought just had a lot of buzz around them. Anyway, I've been able to recently try one of those bottles, and I figured since we were talking about American bottlers, and I just think this is one of those rums that a lot of people are interested in buying and trying in various formats. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit at the intro here, and that's the Homesky Single Origin Reunion Rum Traditionnel. I know we both received samples of this rum from Homesky. I know you've taken your like little initial sip or whatever,
That's
but
right.
Have you spent any quality time with the rum yet?
I have not. Quality time, no. I did take the initial sip and try it.
Did you take it and like play a game of catch with it? You know, that's quality time there.
I said, come on, son. I drug it out to the yard. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
No, I mean, I think I got an initial impression of it very briefly, but no, I need to spend the time with it to really get into it. Have you had the chance so far to do that?
Well, so when I received the rum, you know, Homesky sent us the samples, as I said, and they included a kind of, you know, printed out little sheet about basically how this rum was. They wanted to bottle this because if you know all the lore behind the original Mai Tai recipe, there was, you know, it called for a split base of Jamaican rum, aged Jamaican rum and aged Martinique rum. And there's been a lot of debate amongst, you know, cocktail enthusiasts. Is this a rum agricole? Is this a molasses-based rum traditionnel from Martinique? And so the idea was that this rum traditionnel from Reunion would be similar possibly to what some of those Martinique rum traditionnels may have tasted like, and that the Mai Tai is like a very good vehicle for how to use this rum. And it even included a little Mai Tai recipe in there. So I was kind of like, normally I would just try this straight up neat by itself, but since they're really emphasizing this Mai Tai thing, I feel like I should try it in a Mai Tai. I haven't actually made Mai Tais at home that much in recent years. Like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was doing it somewhat regularly, and you know, I liked trying different rums in them. It's not like I don't like Mai Tais anymore. I think it mostly is just because I've become lazier and lazier with cocktails over the years. And so, you know, in order to make a Mai Tai, you need orgeat, and it needs to be quality orgeat syrup. I'm certainly not going to make that myself and get like a nut bag and like strain out, you know, the almonds and everything. And then you get into buying the syrups, and it's like, if I buy one, it has to last a while, but like, you know, it's probably going to last like 4 weeks, and like I'm not going to run through a whole bottle making Mai Tais in 4 weeks, and the syrups can be expensive. So it's just kind of fallen out of my rotation a little bit. But you know, I was like, this rum is supposed to be a Mai Tai rum. I'm going to get it. I ordered some orgeat from Lieber & Co. They make a really good you know, bottled orgeat syrup. I got all the ingredients. I made it. They recommended Appleton 12 as the Jamaican rum component with this Reunion Rum Traditionnel. I didn't have any Appleton 12 on hand, so I even went out. I bought the bottle of Appleton 12. I was like, I'm going to make this exactly how they specify it.
Yeah.
And there was also a key difference in their suggested recipe from the one I had used in the past. In the past, I'd always done the Smuggler's Cove recipe, which I believe calls for 3/4 ounce of lime juice. And the one listed on the Homesky printout was a full ounce of lime juice. And so I was like, normally I wouldn't do it, but this is how they say to do it, so I'm going to give it a try. The Mai Tai was fucking fantastic, John. It was a John Gulla fantastic, for sure.
Okay.
It was really good. And I'm sure the rum played a part in that. I don't know how much of it was like maybe I've always just needed that extra quarter ounce of lime juice in the Mai Tai recipe, because I always felt mine that I made at home were like decent, but it was like they were missing something. And I feel like maybe that extra quarter ounce of lime juice just really dialed it in for me and balanced out the sweetness. And I really enjoyed it. And I do think the rum played a role in that. But the funny thing is I haven't even tasted it by itself yet. So like I now need to do that part so I can actually really go back and see what kind of influence it's playing on the Mai Tai. But I just wanted to say that like I think it's the combination of this recipe, this rum combination. I don't know. It like made my home Mai Tai better than I ever feel like it's been. So that made me excited for it. I'm probably going to end up picking up a full bottle so I can like keep this going.
Yeah, nice. I have a couple of comments. So the first is, one, my secret is not making my ties at home and always ordering them out, so I don't have to worry about all that stuff you just said.
It's a good move. Yeah, I mean, that's what I started doing instead. I just stopped making them at home. And I'd get ones at actual bars with professionals.
Okay. And then the second thing is interesting. So when I tried the rum, it's got a very specific kind of profile to it, and I can't call anything out. Like I said, I haven't spent enough time with it, but it did strike me as kind of a different rum. You know, I was going to mention also, so you mentioned the lime juice thing, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we just recently learned on our happy hour that sometimes, you know, a lime juice is not a lime juice, and different limes can bring different things. So,
oh, for sure. Yeah, the acidity levels can be different.
Right.
And, yeah, and like, the problem for me is like I don't know how to tell when I have a particularly acidic lime versus another one, because if I just try a little bit by itself, even if it's a less acidic one, it's still going to taste super acidic to me.
Yeah,
you know. So
yeah, no, same here. I mean, I was curious to learn that from, and shout out to Richard Nicholson for leading us through the daiquiri exercise, and Chris Hassan Frank, who also helped us to talk about some of that lime juice, because I had no idea. I had just always thought a lime's a lime. And I know, you know, there's slight differences between fruits, but like I didn't ever really catch on to the idea of like they were even talking about, you know, whether you had to rest it a little bit.
Right.
And I was like,
rested lime juice. Yeah.
Yeah. But not
Let
too
it sit
long.
for a couple of hours. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe it's I just got a particularly great batch of limes that just had the perfect acidity level for the amount that I use or something with the drink. So I'm gonna have to keep experimenting with it. But I bring it up just because I'd love to know from listeners out there who are more accomplished cocktail makers, whether you're a professional or just a home bartender. I know that we have lots of listeners who are way more well-versed and well-practiced and great at making cocktails than either of us are. So I'd love to know your takes on this rum and how it's fared in your Mai Tai recipes. If you've tried how much lime juice you use with it. I'd just love to hear it all, because I think I'm going to make this summer. I've got this full bottle of orgeat now, John, that I've got to get through before it goes bad. So I'm going to be making more of those probably this weekend. But yeah,
you know what you have to do. You have to go back to your original Mai Tai recipe and start using it with 3/4 and 1 full ounce, and then do it against the rum with the Reunion Traditionale in it from Holmes Key, and start seeing, get to it.
Yeah, I guess I need to A/B them. And that was another thing. Sometimes I would get lazy and just do a full 3/4 ounce of orgeat in the past. But the original recipe called for 1/2 ounce and then 1/4 ounce of like a rich simple syrup. I think sometimes it was called rock candy syrup. And I happened to have some 1.5 to 1 ratio simple syrup that I made for Richard Nicholson's daiquiri happy hour. And so I did 1/2 ounce orgeat, 1/4 ounce of that, slightly mid-rich kind of simple syrup. So maybe that had an impact too.
Okay.
Well, by the way, just like future heads up for everyone. So some of y'all will remember that Richard was a guest on our show. He's the founder of the New Zealand Rum Society. We had him on like maybe a couple of years ago to take us inside his epic rum trip around the world, where he visited like 30 distilleries or something crazy. Anyway, he's been working on this book on the history of the daiquiri and like dispelling myths, and the research that he's done for it is truly amazing. Like he shared a lot of, gave us a sort of sneak peek on this special happy hour that we did for our patrons, and it was really, really cool. And I cannot wait for him to, finish this book and be in a place where he can talk about it more publicly, because that's going to be an awesome future episode of the podcast. But in the meantime, we have our interview with Mike Gilmore. We're keeping the American independent bottler theme for this episode. This was a really cool episode because we, as you said, like when his first releases came out, we bought our way into a bottle share of some of those releases, and we're really impressed with that initial wave. And so this new wave, there were a lot of origins popping up that were really interesting. I think the rum from Spain that he bottled, it's like a 17-year-old rum from Spain.
Yep.
That was one that a lot of people were eager to try because they had never had a rum from Spain before. I think you and I were in that camp as well. So, Mike sent us some bottles we were actually able to taste through. And, we talked in detail just about kind of his philosopher as a bottler, what makes him a little bit different, his unique perspective, and what he's got cooking in the future as well. But was there anything that kind of you took away from this interview, or you think people will be surprised to know or learn more about?
I don't know about surprised as much as just, remembering that the way he views things is how he's big on personal relationships. He's big on making sure that, he's tasting the rums in an environment where he feels is steady in the right environment so that he can judge the spirits on their own.
Yeah, he doesn't do samples. That was so surprising to me.
Yeah. I was trying to kind of walk or dance around that without saying it. So that
Did I spoil it?
That's all right.
I've given people little tasty nuggets that they'll get to hear more about when they listen to the full interview. But
some tendies.
Some tendies, yeah. I thought we were the only ones, crazy enough to like just travel in person to select barrels like we did for our project. But yeah, Mike's out there doing it too.
So yeah, and like you said, his philosophy that he came in with from the get-go, being from the bourbon and whiskey world and coming in, and him talking about that is, I think, some interesting things that we kind of got out of him in terms of how he views being an independent bottler. So there's, we've talked about this before. There's a lot of room in rum for a lot of people to succeed in their own viewpoint and bringing in great rums. I'm just happy to see another person bringing in great rums like he's doing, and I was glad to hear how he views getting those into bottles and over here to people to enjoy.
Yeah, and we talked with Mike about some of the rums and like gave a little bit of our impressions of some of them. We did a more in-depth tasting as a bonus episode this month for our Patreon subscribers. So if you're interested in hearing kind of like deeper thoughts on our impressions of the bottles and everything, you can check that out at patreon.com/therumcast. But anything else to add, John, before we shimmy on over to the interview?
I think that's it. We'll hear from our sponsor quickly and be right on over.
All right.
Hey Rum fans, if you're looking for a rum-related getaway this summer, make your plans now to attend the second ever Key West Rum Fest, happening August 11th through the 17th. This week-long event features over 30 rum brands from around the world, including Mount Gay, Worthy Park, Down Island, Chairman's Reserve, Rum GM, local Key West brands, and many others. In keeping with the spirit of a relaxed getaway, you can even pick and choose the experiences you're most interested in independently, including guided tastings, cocktail events, and live music concerts in one of the most iconic island and rum history-filled settings in the United States. Some event highlights include a rum tasting cruise, a grand tasting at the historic Key West Theater, Jesse Rice live in concert for all you pirate heads out there, and a full sandbar party celebrating National Rum Day with other rum lovers like you. And as if you needed another reason to go, every ticket purchased to the Key West Rum Fest directly supports the Mark House, a local nonprofit serving adults with developmental disabilities in the Florida Keys area. Over $23,000 was raised last year, and the goal is even higher this year. Now, some of these events are close to selling out already, so make sure you act fast. You can find the full event schedule and tickets available now at rumfestkeywest.com. That's rumfestkeywest.com. If you've been dreaming of serious rum fun in a tropical paradise, stop dreaming and make it happen. Now back to the show. Okay, we're here with Mike Gilmore, founder and curator of Roaming Road Spirits. And Mike, not too long ago, I remember a time when rum, it felt a little bit like a desert here with regards to, not a lot of independent bottlers from the U.S. And then, you kind of got the Holmes Keys and the Down Island starting to crop up. And then it feels like, I don't remember if it was like a year and a half ago or somewhere around there, bam! Here's this Roaming Road Spirits that just came out of nowhere. And all of a sudden we have this great rum independent bottler also now contributing to our rum scene here in America. So that's kind of where I wanted to start today, because that's what it felt like for me, and I think for other people. So from this outsider perspective, Roaming Road came a long way in a short amount of time in terms of what they've released and just the high quality and desirable rums that you were putting out. But from my understanding, Roaming Road has actually been like 16 years in the making. So I wanted to see if we can start there with you telling us a little bit about where the journey started, what's happened along the way, and how that set you up for these recent successes in the rum space.
Okay. Great to be here, guys. Thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
Welcome, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you. So it started. I was actually born out in California, and when I was out there, I was in law enforcement, and I was worked a gang unit out there in California.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I started to get into spirits at the end of that tenure, and for all the wrong reasons. Not like
as a
today.
Circumstance of that difficult job.
It was a different circumstance.
Yeah.
So after that, I figured I had to make a change. I had to do something different. So I moved out to Wyoming. I had no plan. I did nothing for a year. I had been hunting out here for a while, and it was life 30 years ago at that time. I just really was drawn to it. So when I came out here, I was here for about a year, didn't do anything, and then a liquor store came up for sale. And so I thought, you know what, that's kind of a good fit. I feel good. Let's do something like that. So we got a liquor store. We're about 60 miles south of Jackson Hole. Very small town, very small store, and that store was doing nothing when I took it over in 2007. And from then, I started getting into whiskeys and bourbons long before it came super cool and all before the fad. I started going out to Kentucky and doing a lot of work out there, meeting distilleries, meeting people, building relationships, picking casks of bourbon and selling them through my store picks. That's where we became known throughout the country of really picking good barrels. We got a good following around the country. We're in an area that usually family or friends or somebody's vacationing in to go to the Tetons in Yellowstone. So I would have pallets of cases and things just waiting in the shop area for these people to come pick this stuff up. So it was literally all around the country, and I started becoming named in the stores that are known for store picks around the country. You know, the Lincoln Roads, the Tippins, and all of those. There's a group of stores that are always named and doing great store picks, and I started coming up in that conversation. So that's when I really started getting into it and say, you know what, I might be pretty good at this. Let's keep doing this. So that's where it built. And then about 2 years ago, 2.5 now, these bourbon guys and customers that's been coming to me all these years, just super loyal, were coming to me and they're bringing me aged rums, 15, 18 years old, 10 years old. Then they started bringing me cognacs. Then they started bringing me Armagnacs. And they're saying they were disgusted with the bourbon chase and the allocated bottles. And we all know what that is. A $50 bottle of Weller 12's $300 in a store somewhere. And so they were branching out into these other spirits that were easy steps for them. And they were bringing it to me. And that's when I got my first introduction to single cask spirits that are around the world that are actually really good. And that's what planted the seed for Roaming Road. I've always liked aged rums, not to the extent that I do now. I really understand them much better now. So I thought there's an opportunity here to continue what I do with single cask. Everything I do is single cask. That's what I know. That's my wheelhouse. That's, I probably couldn't blend if I wanted to, which is a talent. It takes skill to blend.
Oh, yeah. But John and I just released an episode, the episode before this, where we were finally announcing what our rum that we're releasing is. And we were both really nervous about it. And that was just a rum, like we had nothing to do with making it. We just pointed to the cask and tasted it and we're like, this is good, let's put it out. If we had blended something, I cannot imagine how nervous I would be, because now it's like you're putting your own fingerprints on it to an extent. And that sounds extremely nerve-wracking.
Yeah, you'd be changing it constantly. You'd never be happy because you'd always think there's a better blend. Let's add some of this to it. It's just mind-boggling.
I'm not even happy with my infinity bottles at home. So, like...
And that's just pouring them all together.
Exactly. I don't even show those to friends. Yeah.
Not even skill involved in that.
No, not at all. So I like the single cask, and I wanted to keep that because that's what I know. It is what it is when you pick that cask. It's not going to change, and you can't blend it away. It's either good or it's not good.
Yeah.
And so I've just kind of taken that idea 2 years ago as a seed and started just looking into it, and it started gradually getting more and more and more and more. And the value in these products is unheard of compared to the whiskey world or the bourbon world. When, I think I have a 32-year-old cognac on my website for 149,
Yeah.
single cask.
Saw that.
And yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just unheard of. And so that's what planted the seed, and that's what made me started going out. I'm rum centric, as you guys can probably tell, but I do a lot of other things, and I will go anywhere in this world if somebody points me in a direction of something unique that's interesting. I'm going to go at least explore it and try it and see what it is, and if it's something that I can bring back. And that's kind of accelerated too as the brand has grown. People around the world are reaching out to me, going, "Hey, we might have some stuff that you might be interested in," which is kind of nice. I'm not blindly knocking on doors, so that helps a lot too.
Yeah.
There's
Is
some.
that typically other brokers that are out there? Or do you ever get calls from distilleries or anything like that?
I get calls from distilleries. I get calls from brokers. I get calls from just customers that say, "Hey, I was traveling and I ran across this spirit. I thought it might fit you well."
Ah, okay.
And so I get a lot of that, and so then that puts that on my radar. Just for an example, as a couple of things, there's a rice whiskey in Okinawa that they are now barrel aging that they used to do in the ceramic pots.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
I just ran across some rum that's made in India that was actually pretty good. It's
Yeah.
quite different. It's quite unique, and that kind of struck my fancy. So it's just things like that, and the hunt is half the fun for me.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
that's what I love to do. I love to go hunt for this stuff and try to find it, and I don't do anything by samples, and that goes all the way back from the early bourbon days. I have never done any barrel by samples or mail me
really?
something. Nothing, never.
I
I
guess that
have
makes sense because I think you came to visit the guys at Maine Rum shortly after we left.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't realize that you were going there to like do all your picks in person.
everything I've ever done in the last 18 years by barrel wise has been in person, and it's probably a trade secret, but it's one of my it's one that makes me different. I think is that it's expensive to do it this way, but you
Yeah.
can't build relationships over a telephone or say send me a sample.
okay.
Because when you do say send me samples, they'll send you samples, and they're random samples, all right, because they don't know you from Adam, and they're just grabbing stuff and sending them to you because they have no
Right.
idea who you are or anything about you. So it's very important for me to build relationships with people everywhere, whether it's Kentucky or it's Ireland or France. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I spent a lot of time sitting at dinner tables having meals with the people in France, for example, when I was doing the cognac stuff. I think that's super important because they learn about you, what you represent, your brand, what you're trying to achieve. And if we're in a different country in the same area, we'll always try to meet for dinner. I always try to reach out and do that. So it's been it's been something I've done since day one, and I think it's extremely important, and I'm just going to continue to do that. It's expensive to travel, but
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
get better stuff, and things that aren't usually offered to just everyone.
You
It's
sound
it's
like you're running for rum office.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
it's funny because when John and I were doing our cast, we went to Liverpool, and once we actually got a spreadsheet for like costing everything, we were kind of looking at it. And part of the reason we wanted to go in person was to do a show about it, take
Yeah.
people along. And once we started plugging in all the numbers into trying to figure out how to price everything, I was like, it would be insane for any actual business to do it this way because it doesn't make sense to go in person to Maine Rum when they can send you samples. But I 100% appreciate what
Yeah.
you're saying in that it's all about relationships at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
even the most objective broker in the world who doesn't try to play favorites or anything, you just, when you know someone in person, you get a better sense for what they like and, what would be a good fit for them. But B, if you become friends, then it's probably going to help a little bit. So that totally makes sense. It also helps if you're not just going to buy one cask. So economies of scale can really balance out the travel expenses is something else we learned. Yeah.
Yeah, that it does help if it's more than one. I'm not a 50 cask guy yet, but it does help when you're buying multiple casks. But I just think it's important. It's kind of been my secret sauce since day one. So
Okay.
I'm just going to continue to do it, and I think I get some really, really good stuff this way. That's generally not offered out there. So
We'll just beep out all of that segment of
oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The secret sauce part.
Exactly. What are the differences? And you can speak to the rum side of this or just spirits in general, but how have kind of store picks evolved since when you first started doing them to now, or even within like the last 5 years or so? Because I feel like for me as a rum enthusiast, they just become so much more prevalent across the whole country. I'm just curious kind of what that's looked like from the store perspective.
Um, it's it's way worse.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why exactly. Because they've become so much more prevalent in the store picks. There are stores that, and this happens all the time, and I educate people, and I think it's starting to change. But 3, 4 years ago, people were doing store picks, and they would call a distillery or their distributor and say, or their rep, and say, I want a barrel. And yeah, just send me a barrel. And the
Yeah.
distillery will send them a barrel. They slap their name on that label. They have no idea what's in that bottle, but it's got their name on the bottle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's store pick, at that time, they would just sell because people are actually thinking that they're actually investing something in this, and they're not. And I can tell you right now that those send me apparel people are the distilleries sending out from barrel selections on site that people like me have gone through 4 of them and not taken that barrel.
Yeah.
And that's how they get rid of that barrel because it's not being selected in the on-site barrel picks. So they send it out as that.
This actually explains some of the barrel picks that I've tasted over the years and been like,
Yeah.
why would you pick this? Well,
It's
they
terrible.
didn't actually pick
You
it.
didn't.
Yeah.
So I mean,
It's all
been
marketing.
It is. It is. And people think it's a store pick, and they just the hype of it. They were just buying all of them all the time. And the distilleries got lazy because it's more cost effective to just pick a barrel and send it out to them
Yeah.
than having an on-site meeting that you're spending 2 or 3 hours with someone that's being staffed. It costs more for them. So they love send me a barrel because it's easy money for them to just send it out. But it lowered the quality of store picks across the board that's out there. And so my big thing was trying to educate people to ask, did you pick this? Who picked it? Are they here? Can I talk to them?
Why
And
did you pick it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think more people are getting in tune to that now. And so it's not so much it being that prevalent, but that's why it has gone from the way it was to getting worse, in my opinion. And that's why those handful of stores that are known for store picks are named in the same circles, which, that's important because they have the reputation. They do it on site. I know all those stores, and everybody does it right. So that's why you kind of want to purchase from those people because you have no idea what you're getting on these other store picks.
Right.
So they have an actual process behind what they're doing and what you're doing, and that's what makes the actual difference. The intention, right? Makes sense.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking
it's
of
just-
that, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's just lazy doing it the other way, and you're not invested in
Right.
trying to deliver a great product to your customers.
Right. And they must feel like they're going to sell it either way in some cases, especially with like a hot spirit like bourbon or something like that, where they're like, yeah, whatever, it's going to fly off the shelves anyway. So why do we care?
Right.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit more about process, actually. So when you're selecting rum casks, can you talk us through a little bit of that? You already mentioned you're going to go there in person. So I'm curious to know, do you make the pick by yourself or is there anybody else involved? How long does it usually take you? Are you there on your trip and you buy it on your trip, or do you have to like come back sometimes, like take another trip out there? Or at that point, are you okay with samples? And then the last thing is like, are you looking for specific characteristics that give you a sense of what you want or how you have a perspective on these single casks?
Yeah. Generally, well, not generally. I am the only one that makes the decisions on the casks. It's me making the decisions. I select the casks. One of the benefits of being in the retail business all these times is I've sampled thousands and thousands of people on many different spirits. So it's given me a database in my head of profiles that people like because I always ask, what do you think of that? What did you like? What did you not like? And so I have this database in my head of all of these things and profiles that majority of people like. So a lot of things, depending on what I'm after with that particular cask, say I want to approach somebody that is a whiskey drinker, I want to direct it towards them, then I will direct that cask selection towards something that's an easy step for those guys to bring over. Because those have been my focus in bringing those guys over because I think there is what's going to grow the rum market.
I see.
Those guys are the big market that you're going to grow. I go after the newbies too that are brand new to rum and educate them. That's why these, the Rum Curious Summit I did in Long Beach. Those are very important. But I kind of have an idea from all these tasting profiles I've done over the years. And then the rum guys themselves, the hardcore, the nerdy, the geeky types. I try to find those things that the whiskey guy's going to go, oh, that's terrible, because I know they're going to relate to that. So it's very specific towards what I'm after and what I'm trying to bring to the market for certain market share.
It sounds like what you're saying is you're selecting casks that you like, of course, but that also you feel fit what those people that you've talked to will like as well. So it's kind of a dual kind of thought process.
It's kind of a dual process for me. When I was doing the bourbon cast, a lot of times my favorite wasn't what was going to translate to the customer base. So that in a retail environment, that's a little bit different. I've got a lot more leeway now in kind of the way I do these things. I still focus on three things. The nose, I want that to be inviting. I want you to be excited about getting into the drink. The mid palate, I think, needs to be really, really good, and that finish needs to be long. So I like viscous. I like things that stick around in your mouth, and it lasts a long time. And that's easier said than done to find all three of those, because sometimes you'll find two and you're super excited, and then you're completely let down by the other one.
Do you balance those three things equally? Is it like 33.3% for each, or
I would say yeah. I would say yeah. I mean, to me, they're equally important in that perfect pour, and so it weighs heavily on me on those things. So I'm always looking for those type of aspects. But it's just kind of individual of kind of what I'm looking at or what I'm looking for at that particular time, and what kind of profile I want to direct to what segment of the market. And I have many, many, many ways to go, which is kind of cool.
I'm sure it's a learning process as you do those store picks, and you probably learn very quickly because, making the wrong decision, you're stuck with a bunch of stuff that no one wants to buy.
Yeah.
Are there any picks that stick out in your mind that were like particularly instructive for you in learning like either what people really like or really don't like?
They've all been actually pretty good. And I'm not, trying to be arrogant or anything, but
Mike's like, I've never picked a bad cast. Next.
They've all been very, very well received. I did pick a cast one time, and to this day, I swear it's not the cast that I picked. And that's only happened one time. It's only happened one time. Because my notes, I'm very meticulous about my notes and how I do that.
Okay.
So it was just complete opposite of what my notes were from that visit. I'm not going to say what distillery it was or any of that, but that was the only one that was just it just wasn't right. So I'm fortunate that it doesn't happen all the time. So when I actually do and go out and do these casts, back to your question. So when I do these and I find things that I like, I may sample 30 casks to buy 5 to 8.
Yeah.
If I'm lucky, I'll get 8 out of 30. So it's not like, I get 6 and I have to pick 4 out of that 6. I mean, I take a lot of samples.
Yeah.
And most people go, God damn it, Mike. Do you have to have that many samples? Well, yeah, kind of, I do. Because it's, I want to be sure about the casks. So when I do pick those 5 or 8 casks or whatever it is, I always have samples, because sometimes if you go in the wintertime, which you guys just did,
Yeah.
it is impossible to pick a cask when it's that cold in the warehouse and you can't get notes out of it. You can't nose anything. You can get an idea.
Yeah.
Like this has potential.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you put that on your list. I always get samples sent to me when I'm home before I make the final decision, because I'm in my home environment. It's very comfortable to me.
Right.
This is where I think I do my best tasting.
Yeah.
So I have a good idea.
Is not adding to anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not enamored with, I was fortunate enough to get to pick in Maine Rums the old warehouse with the old rickety elevator.
Yeah.
That thing is unbelievable. It was so sad to see that go, but I'm fortunate that I got to experience that one time.
Yeah.
Thieving casks in that old warehouse. It was really, really cool. But yeah, so I always make my decisions after when I get home in the second opinion, but I have a pretty good idea going into that. That is just a reconfirm of, okay, it's the right decision. That's how I select the casks.
So you mentioned sometimes upwards of 20 or even 30 casks. How many are you tasting in a session then? Or like, how does that take shape? Because that's a lot.
It's a lot. I usually try to do even 20 is a lot. So 16 to 20 is kind of where I would probably call it, and then I would come back the next day because I'm there. I'm on site. I
Gotcha.
can actually come
Okay.
back the next morning and and do some more.
Yeah.
Um, so that helps as well. But
And it's
yeah,
a
I think
skill, right? I mean, I think there's some skill involved that builds over time. All right, so
yeah.
I assume that as you're doing this and you have the experience doing it, you're flexing or building that muscle of a skill also.
Yeah, yeah, and everybody's different on their palates. I think I've been cast strength for so long, I'm kind of in tuned with it. So
Hmm.
16 is not unreasonable for someone like me that to get blown out. But if somebody is not quite into the cast strength as much, it may be 6 or 7 and they're blown out. So I kind of know where my limit is, and I kind of know when I'm just wasting time
Hmm.
sampling stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and generally that 16 mark is about the tops of it.
Yeah. So I know your initial run of releases, I believe at least on the online store, they all are labeled as sold out now. It seems like those, were could describe as successful initial releases. Did you learn anything from that initial slate of rums, and did that inform kind of the next wave of casks that you bought at all?
Um, I looked at it mostly out of a validation because
Mm.
this was all new to me. I've never released anything other than bourbon whiskey. That's where my world was. So this was all new to me, and so the validation was really important. And that helped me continue on because everybody seemed to really like those releases. The Jamaica Diamond H from Hampden, that thing was off the charts good. Everybody still talks about that. Of that first release, the 20-year Venezuela that I had was
Hmm.
single-handedly the most productive product that I released that brought the whiskey bourbon guys over.
Interesting.
They
I could see that.
absolutely love that thing. To this day, I get calls. Do you have any of this? Where can I find it?
Wow.
I'm now searching stores and they have random bottles. I just did a guy the other day and he hit 3 stores and cleaned them completely out of it.
Wow.
Whatever they had left, and it wasn't a whole lot. Um,
I would have
so
guessed it would have been the Belize that they liked the
Me
most.
too.
the
Yeah.
Belize was right there as well,
Yeah.
with the bourbon whiskey guys. It was definitely there, but for whatever reason, that Venezuela, it was so dark and was so rich and it was so oak forward, um, which I'm almost positive that subliminally a lot of my bourbon background comes into my picks. I love the oak. I would say I'm almost oak forward on a lot of my
Hmm.
picks,
Hmm.
Hmm.
depending on what I'm looking for. So if that barrel is for the whiskey guys, yeah, it's going to be oak centric, oak forward, and that kind of I tend to fall back on that. And I think you guys mentioned that when you tasted the first round of stuff about the oak forward stuff.
We did. Yep.
The Australian, the 16-year was kind of an oak forward, but that thing was
Hmm.
really good too.
It
Hmm.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, that was your favorite, John.
It was amazing. It was really
Yeah,
good. So was the Belize. They were honestly, you know what? We kind of glossed over this in the beginning. I mentioned it, but I think it's worth also saying like usually when you have an independent bottler that comes out, they might bring one or maybe two, and here you are with I don't remember if it was 5 or it was 6, something like that. That you're just like,
it's
bam, I'm gonna throw all of these out at once. So I can't imagine, that's a lot to do at once. And then I guess it's partly your process. It kind of speaks to what you said of like, you're going to learn from this. Like what sells, what are people gravitating towards out there with these? I assume, right?
yeah. I wanted to hit the ground running, so I went hard. I went hard on that first release, and that's why they were 8 from different regions, and I
8.
thought they
That's
were
what it was.
all they
Yeah.
were all really good, and they're completely different profiles.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show people my range of stuff and what I'm going to be bringing, and so it's hard to do that with 1 or 2 casks because they'll say, "Oh, anybody can get lucky with 1 cask," but if you do 8, with all the different profiles in different regions, they were all uniquely different. I wanted to hit it hard and say, I'm going to bring you this kind of stuff all the time, and it's going to come from all over the place.
Yeah.
Which the second release kind of has that as well. It's all over the place, and so I just like doing it that way. The single
Yeah.
cask is difficult.
I
I
mean,
wish I had one SKU and 10,000 bottles, but
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, you're definitely making a statement, right? You're saying, hey, this is not a fluke. putting out all of these at once, and then transitioning into the new ones. So, how many releases do you have in this second wave?
I think there's six. The seventh just released. It's an 18-year Barbados. It just released like 3 days ago. That's a four square.
Yeah.
18 years. It's super, super good. I'm kind of picky on my four squares as well. I look at that a little bit different. It's got to be a kind of an elevated four square for me because there's a lot of four square out there, and I think a lot of
Good.
lesser brands are putting out Foursquare that's average because it has Foursquare on it, and they can
I
say
see.
it's Foursquare. You see what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I feel like in order to release a Foursquare now, you either have to be someone who's gonna take, or I guess if I'm viewing it from the rum enthusiast perspective,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I go out and I buy a Foursquare that is from someone other than Foursquare, my it's not bullshit radar isn't the right word because it's not bullshit, but I just think there's a lot of what you described going on where it's such a hot name right now and there's so much of it available that a lot of people will just get whatever they can and put it out there. And so it kind of takes, I have to hear that a Foursquare is particularly exceptional from an IB before I'll like actually go out to and take the risk on it. But I will say, looking at yours, because I didn't know about this one being out. I'm just looking at the website now. Like 18-year Foursquare, $135, like is a pretty reason. I would have predicted that it was more expensive than that, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. No, I try to keep my prices in a range that I'm comfortable with. I wanted to get it in as many hands as possible. I think that's important. I don't want people to be out of the market and not be able to enjoy it because it's $40 more than just outside of their price range. So I try to keep them all accessible to as many people as possible so everyone can enjoy them. And so that's why, like this next release, I think my Thailand is like $85.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a good price. And
So
looking at some of the other ones, so I know you have a Mauritius rum, 12-year that's out now, which is an ex bourbon / ex cognac. There is the Jamaica again, but I think this one's Worthy Park. Are we allowed to say that?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it is. Yeah,
It's a WPM, right?
it is. It's a medium ester mark, which was kind of rare. You don't see a lot of those.
It's harder to find those.
It's
yeah,
harder
there's-
to find
there's,
those.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of WPL. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get a lot of emails and stuff when this stuff comes out and say, hey, what's the mark? And I'll tell them, and they're like, oh, I haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, that's good. That's good. I really really like that one too. That one turned out well.
Yeah.
Um,
You mentioned the Thailand 11-year, an El Salvador 12, a Belize again. This one's different, right? An 18-year this
it
time.
is. It's an 18.
You've got a Dominican Republic 12-year, and then this interesting one that I was hoping to talk about with you, which is a Spain rum, a 17-year Spain, as Will is showing the bottle right there. I wanted to dig into this one a little bit more. So I know, first of all, Spain's not generally thought of as a big rum-producing country, and honestly, when I saw a 17-year show up in your latest line, I was like, huh. It like really kind of threw me back, and I was like, either these have been around forever and nobody thought they were good, or you like pulled something out of a cellar unbeknownst somewhere and like did some magic to get this, because just to never have heard about it and it's a 17-year-old rum seems strange. So now that I have tasted it, I'm going to give a little bit of my thoughts in a second, but I want to first throw it to you if you can tell us a little bit more about how that specific release came about.
Okay. I was not looking for a Spain rum. It wasn't on my radar. So going back to the relationship building aspect of it prior that we were talking about, I think that had a lot to do with it, because I was out doing cask work, picking different things, and they said, I have something kind of unique. Do you want to try it? And of course I said, no, that doesn't interest me. So I said, yes, absolutely. I want to try that. And so that's where that cask came about. They actually didn't even tell me what it was till after I had tried it.
Oh.
Yeah, it was.
Did you have a guess when you tried it before they told you what it was?
It would never have been Spain. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
But I think it's that relationship type thing that they were probably, sitting on that and waiting for me to come and then maybe present it to me, knowing what I do and being the unique type stuff. So no, it was not on my radar. I knew there was some stuff out there, but I had not started to explore it yet and even get into it. So it was kind of a fall into my lap type scenario. But I do remember after I did pick it, and I thought it was really, really good. The fact that I knew I had it, and when I got home, I started asking the people in the rum circles, "Hey, I've been looking for a Spain rum. Have you seen one anywhere?" And they're like, "No, I didn't even know they like had Spain rum out there." So everybody said the same thing. So then it turned to, "Please be first to market. Please be first to market,"
Yeah, yeah.
because I knew it was coming, but I didn't know if somebody else had one and it was going to drop it ahead of me. So that was a little nerve wracking, waiting for that to drop. And I think it's the only one out there. I don't know. Maybe do you guys know of another one?
I have not seen another one in the U.S.
Here in
for
the US,
sure.
no.
I try not to speak definitively about
Right,
the
right.
European market because there's so many bottlers there,
Yeah.
and almost always when I'm like, oh, this is the first one ever, it's like actually there was one in Europe, like so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. U.S.
But
specific. I think
Yeah.
it is the only one.
Yeah. It's an interesting, I think, it's not a dilemma, but it's an interesting thing to think about from the bottler's perspective of you come across sometimes these origins that are unexpected and maybe people have never tried before. And that in and of itself is a very exciting thing to be able to sell to people. But then the rum also needs to be good, right?
Yeah.
So I guess you didn't know what it was yet, though, when you tasted it. So you were just going purely off of taste at that point. Is there anything that it reminded you of or that you've kind of landed on as a comparison if you were going to describe it to rum enthusiasts who have not had a rum from Spain before?
I think it speaks to bourbon whiskey guys. Like I say, everything I try, I'm always having in my mind of kind of where this should be directed or where
Yeah.
it will fit. It's just kind of why I look at these casks, and to me, it kind of landed um, right in that area where those guys were going to relate to it. The Cotswold malt whiskey cask was
Yeah.
a unique finish. I didn't see much of that, and I think it adds something quite unique to that. Are we trying that now? By the way, I just saw you drink.
Yeah, I've got it poured.
Oh, okay.
I will say once you look at the specs on it, you know, it's a molasses rum, column distilled, aged in ex-bourbon casks, and then, as you said, finished in the Cotswold malt whiskey cask, which is an English malt whiskey distillery. And are all of those Cotswold casks previously wine barrels? Because all the ones that I've tried are like that Maine has, but I don't know if they have some from Cotswold that were not wine beforehand or not.
This particular one was not wine.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So when I look at those specs, and maybe it's just the fact that it says Spain on it, kind of subconsciously plants this in my head, but my expectations go towards Latin American rums because, you know, most of those are column distilled. You know, they're cask driven in flavor a lot of time. And so that's kind of where my mind goes. And I think that's kind of the comparison I settled on after I tried it is I think if you're someone who likes rum from like Grander, say, so like a Panama rum, I think this is right in that wheelhouse too, which makes sense because I think that's another brand that is very popular among the bourbon drinkers of the world. They find stuff that they can relate to in there that's familiar, and it's those really cask driven flavors.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's my wheelhouse, by the way.
How did it hit you, John?
That's funny you were going to ask. I was just about to jump in and say, this one's like, if I had a wheelhouse, this would be in the very center of that. I don't even know what a wheelhouse is, really. But it is exactly as you just described it, Will. I would say very similar to some of those, column still molasses rums that you generally get, but are often hard to find with no additives and no sugar, and just honest, cask strength, those type of things. So I think you're right in some of those comparisons, but I also think it has its own thing. So this is only the second time that I've tried it, and I'm still trying to tease some of the things out. It's certainly oak forward, Mike, as you're saying. I think you're right on point there with like, hey, this is going to be very heavy with those people who probably like that Venezuela 20. They're going to like this a lot in the same way. I didn't try that one, but I'm going to guess because it has those similar characteristics. But I don't know. There's something else there that I'm still trying to get to. Maybe by the end of this podcast, I'll get it.
I'll say I think it's a very dry rum. And Mike, we were talking before we started recording about we were speaking about those Cotswolds casks that Maine Rum has, and you were saying you think those really bring a dryness to the spirit. And this is not overly dry, but thinking about other Latin American rum producing countries, like Belize is another one that comes to mind. And this to me is not quite like a Belize, because those Belize rums like have a real heavy sweetness to them. And I don't mean like from additives. I just mean they're like a very sweet kind of rum. And this is a lot drier, crisper, I would say.
Belize is very specific on their profile. When you try something from Belize or Travelers, you know exactly, oh, this is Belize. It is the epitome of the perfect rum, almost, in like profile wise. Yeah.
One funny thing that occurred to me is the term Spanish style rum gets thrown around so much. Like, this is the one true, actually Spanish style rum I've ever had. But yeah, no, it's definitely fun to be able to taste that. Do you know much about and it's always tricky, like what you can say depending on what agreements the broker has with the distillery. Is there anything you can tell us about the distillery that it came from?
Yeah, it's just us three. Nobody else is listening. This distillery is in Granada, Spain.
Okay.
Really?
They actually do the aging of the casks in Barcelona, in a warehouse in Barcelona.
Okay.
And it is Azularera del Guadalafio.
Okay.
Is it a double L?
No, one L.
Oh, one L. Okay.
Yeah. In my notes here, it's the only alcohol molasses factory in Spain.
Wow.
Huh.
I'm kicking myself because my wife and I went to Granada recently, and I did not know that there was a rum producer there.
It was right there. I didn't know either until I got the info. And I was surprised. Yeah.
That's really cool, though.
Yeah, it is cool.
Granada's an amazing city, so having a rum distillery there would be awesome to add to the agenda. And still in operation. This isn't like another.
No, it's still in operation.
Okay.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Before we move off of this, I wish I had something more interesting to say, but I just have to agree with both of you that the difference here, it feels like it is coming from the Cotswolds finish, so that it is married really well with that drying kind of thing, and it produces, in my mind, it's a fantastic. This gets a Gullah fantastic in terms of really good stuff, and
not the Australia 16 fan fucking tastic.
Let me get through a little more of the bottle, and we'll figure that out.
There you go. So the profile on this from the very beginning, from the first time I tried it to now, and all the times in between, to me, it's very floral on the nose. It's almost not like a rum; it's more floral on the nose itself, and then the rum actually hits you right on the palate, the mid palate, super heavy, the molasses, the classic rum profile. And then it completely dries from there on the finish. And so I always looked at it and described it as kind of a 3-tier ride of quite different profiles. It's not what you expect from the nose to the palate to the finish. It changes to where it's something that you're just not expecting.
It's a 3-leg journey.
It is, and that's kind of why I like that one, because it was unique in that aspect. But the Cotswold, I think, that's the drying finish on that. Yeah, for sure.
Mike, do you have a personal philosophy around adding drops of water to your cask strength spirits?
I'm completely fine with drops of water. I am anti-cocktail. None of this stuff is for cocktails. I'm kind of anti-ice cube. Especially the great big, bald ones. I think that within a few minutes, especially if you use small ice cubes, within a few minutes, it's completely watered down. You've lost everything. Cooling stones would be okay, but I think drops of water is the best way. Start it neat, and then start dropping, adding drops of water to your preference, because it does open it up a lot as well. And I've noticed on all the rums too, as they sit in the glass, they evolve. Just in the 10, 15 minutes that you have them, you'll nose them again, and it's completely different than when you first poured it. So the evolution of this in the glass in 15-minute period is, I love that. That's what I love about the rum.
Yeah, I think for me, historically, I've just been I'm too lazy to do anything, so I'm just going to pour it in the glass and drink it. I think as I've spent more time with this, I've started to become more of an occasional drops of water guy. And I did that for this rum, and I actually think for me, for like my experience with it, that really did open it up a lot more.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people's experiences will vary, but that's something I'm just trying to add as a step a little bit more when I taste stuff.
It's almost a good practice to do it every time. Start
Yeah,
it neat and then add a few drops to see how that changes. So
yeah,
I am not opposed to that whatsoever. I
for
actually
sure.
encourage it.
So I know you've also got in this lineup of new stuff. There's a Mauritius cane juice rum. There's a Thailand molasses rum. There's a Dominican Republic cane juice rum as well. There's a lot of stuff in here. El Salvador, I think,
Yeah.
is in there. What's not on the list yet of all the releases you've done? We mentioned some of the other ones: Australia, Barbados, Panama, Belize, Guyana, Jamaica. What's not on the list that you'd like to see join it at some point in the future, or do you even think about it from that perspective?
I generally don't think about it or go in
Hmm.
with a thought of I have to have a Ghana rum. I have to have this because
Yeah.
I think you get focused on it, and that's when you start maybe making mistakes on casks, or taking something that's you normally wouldn't have taken because you've already got it in your mind that I need one of these.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of more open-minded as I go into it. I'll have some regions in mind and maybe try a few of those, and if they don't work, I move on. I don't try to force that issue. So it kind of the casks dictate kind of what I take. But I will start with something. Hey, I'd like to try something from Thailand. Throw in a few of those as well. But it's not. I'm not locked into it. I'm not. I don't have to have it. I will move on if it's just not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
So
we've spoken to the idea of rums that are for bourbon drinkers, or not necessarily exclusively for them, but
yeah.
that they just might happen to really enjoy. Are there any rums in this current lineup that you look at and you're kind of like, this is the one for the rum geeks who maybe aren't as into like super, heavy cask influence? And I feel like when I looked at your initial releases that you did, like there were some Guyanas in there, there was the Jamaica, and those to me were the ones I looked at as like, these are for like the rum enthusiast who isn't just like, oh, I love, Foursquare and Grander and stuff like that. Are there any in this lineup that you kind of see speaking more to that palette?
To the whiskey bourbon palate,
Or no, to the rum enthusiast who's
to the
like
rum
not, yeah,
enthusiast.
yeah, yeah,
The Thailand, quite frankly, has been super, super popular in all the
yeah.
tasting events and everything that I've done. Um, I don't know if you guys have tried that yet, or you'll try it now, but it's really, really good. And that's another one. A lot of people say that, hey, I haven't seen much from Thailand. I guess you don't see a lot of that on the shelves anyway.
Hmm.
Right.
And so I hear that a lot. That one really, really hit the rum people, and the Mauritius too. The Mauritius is quite unique. It's really, really good, and I think the cognac cask is just the perfect influence on it. I'm not a finishing cask kind of guy. I generally don't like finishing casks because they're usually overdone, especially when you get into sherry casks and things like that. I think
Yeah.
people use them to hide bad liquid to start with
Hmm. Hmm.
because it's super easy to hide it, and it's overdone. It's over sherried or whatever it may be. So I'm very picky about the finishing cast, and it has to just supplement the actual spirit. I want the spirit to be the star, not the finishing cask or what it's imparting in it.
I'm gonna back you up on that
You're
too. I
speaking
think
my language. Yeah.
yeah, the Mauritius is one that I've been gravitating towards. Again, I've just gotten into most of these at this point, but the Mauritius really has a nice touch there on the end of that cognac, the right amount of finish, as you're saying, and I still really appreciate the distillate as well in it. So it's
Yeah.
not too far aged. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's heavy. It's 127 proof, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah. 63.7%.
Yeah,
This is the one, like, to answer my own question, when I tried, because I've tried the Mauritius, the Dominican Republic, the Thailand, and the Spain. And the Mauritius one, again, this is a cane juice rum, aged in ex bourbon, column still, and finished in cognac. And this was the one to me that I felt like gave me a rum profile that was familiar in some ways, but also I was like, I don't think I've had an aged cane juice rum with quite this profile before. And I don't think that's just because of the cognac. I think it's also from the producers. So this is from Medi in Mauritius. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a Mauritius distillery that we have not seen a lot of
Right.
in the U.S. Particularly so far. I think most of what we've gotten in the U.S. has been from Gray's.
Yeah.
And there's been
they're
some.
super old too, that distillery.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, 1926.
Wow.
It's the oldest operational distillery in
Centennial's
Mauritius.
coming up.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is surprising. You'd think you'd see more.
Yeah, I mean, I really do like that. But I also want to point out, I don't know if, Will, you've gotten to this, but on the Thailand, there's a lovely toasted coconut nose on this. Woof. I mean, just, it's really present for me.
Yeah,
It's
I think
really nice.
I think if you've been a fan of some of the other Thailand stuff we've seen, like the Shakara 12-year bottle, which that's a different thing. That's not a single cask. It's not cask strength, but a lot of the hallmarks of those rums are in this one too. Yeah, the toasted coconut, I got that as well, John. And
Even the new rum people get that note.
Yeah.
That's a note they pick up right away. It's
Yeah.
it's super, super good. I absolutely love that Thailand, and especially at $85.
Yeah. I think it also speaks to what you mentioned earlier about how you've positioned a lot of these releases to be very accessible for people who are just outside of maybe the main rum enthusiasts, but still appeal to the inside as well for people like myself who are, like oak and like some of these other kind of classic type of notes that you often find in other things like bourbon and whiskey. Will, you look like you want to call me out on something.
well,
I'm reading your face.
Is someone like shining a flashlight in your face? What's going on?
Oh, I didn't even. Just Miami sun here. That's all.
I'm not used to seeing like a little sunbeam coming directly into your face while we're recording. So
That's actually the angels down on me right now as I'm drinking this amazing rum with you all. Now I see what it is. It's the glass. It's shining off of one of the bottles. That's all.
okay, yeah,
wow.
it's almost like a pool reflecting
It
light
is.
into your eyes.
So really quickly, I did want to talk about, we just talked about a number of these, the Spain, the Mauritius, the Thailand, the Dominican Republic. All of these are column still. And so it's another thing I wanted to point out that in the rum enthusiast community, a lot of people, they just, we've talked about this ad nauseum, I think, look past column still products and just, no, give me the pot stuff. And while I understand that from a certain level, I also think that these are very good examples of why you shouldn't do that. So is that something you ever look at the calculation of like, oh, I've got, a lot of column still, or does it matter to you? Or really it's more about just, let me get the rum out there that I like?
It's strictly the profile for me. I don't focus on pot or column. It's just the profile itself that I'm looking for. Because I think there's some exceptional column still rums out there that are quite unique and different.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. They do get dismissed a lot. And people are just focused on the pot still. So again, I don't like to pigeonhole in what I'm looking for or trying to get, or I have to have a pot still. I have to have this. It's just about the best spirit that I can find that I think is unique and different and bring something, out of the ordinary to the table, or an elevated ordinary.
Yeah. And we've had this conversation with one of our Patreon members, Richard Nicholson, who's also the founder of the New Zealand Rum Society and a really smart rum person. And he's really been hammering the issue lately of just what a poor descriptor just blanket column still is, because there's so many different types of column stills. They produce vastly different distillates. Yeah, some are still kind of batch, some are continuous. So I think it's a little bit of, which is funny because this happens so much in rum, but it's just kind of a victim of, improper, non-specific labeling. But I think that's the right approach too, because I've just had so many good great column still rums, or even column still rums that if I'd been not told that and I'd been tasting it blindfolded, I might have thought it was a pot still. So yeah, I think it's generally good to look past that with your expectations.
Yeah, I think Guyana has a lot of those column stills that are out of the ordinary, different profiles for sure.
Agreed. So, Mike, this is a crap question to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Okay.
What is, if you can recall, is there a cask that you thought you came close to purchasing, but then said, you know what, nope, not for me? And if that's the case, and you can think of one, why did you do that?
Just recently, actually. There was one that was very, very rare, very unique, very different, very expensive. But as much as I wanted that cask, I could not pull the trigger on it because it just kept letting me down. And I tried it, I don't know, 10 different times. Hell, maybe my palate's off today. I'll try it again in a few days. I'll
You
try it
gave it
again this
enough
weekend.
chances.
I gave it enough chances, and I wanted it to work. And
Wait, was it that last Gardell casket, man?
No, no, it wasn't.
Okay, I had to
No,
ask.
it was a different one. But yeah, that one was tough, but it just didn't cut it as bad as I wanted it. And so I'm pretty strict on how I do things and pick things. So I usually don't sacrifice anything. And I just don't want to do that. So that was one particularly that I just did, and I really wanted it, but I couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You spoke earlier to visiting distilleries, really trying to build those relationships, and John mentioned earlier kind of this new wave of American independent rum bottlers in the U.S., and we've kind of gotten to see a lot of the stages they go through. And I know just about, I think every single one of the ones that we've talked to started out purchasing casks from a broker, usually Maine, and then over time, some of them have started to kind of forge direct distillery relationships. Is that kind of on your next step list? Are there any rum distilleries you visited in person already? Any on your list to visit? Are you hoping to kind of craft some of those distillery relationships in rum as well?
That's definitely on the horizon, on the radar. That's kind of what I like to do. It's what I forged in Kentucky, doing the exact same thing. So that is definitely coming. Since I launched last year and the new releases and the brand name is growing, I'm getting more people reaching out to me that have casks of some really unique stuff that I would have never known about, but they're reaching out to me saying, hey, we see what you're doing, and we think you might be interested in some of these things that we have. We've had them for a long time. And these are just sources from all over the world. And it's quite interesting because there's some stuff on those lists and I'm like, wow, this has got potential. So I think I'm gonna explore some of those as well, just because I don't know how long they've had them or why they have them, but they just want to get rid of them now. And so
sometimes that can be a good or a bad thing.
It could be either way. That's why I go out there and I can see it firsthand,
exactly.
And I can decide how they're doing it and what they're doing with them, and try them right there with them. So there's some exciting opportunities with that, and so I'm definitely gonna focus on that a little bit, because they're just coming out of the woodwork, and it's things you never would have found on your own.
Yeah.
So they're definitely, from the first look and the first, checking them out, I think it's worth looking into.
They're at least worth visiting and tasting.
Absolutely,
it sounds like.
absolutely, because they could have a hidden gem in there. For whatever reason. So I'm generally in those areas anyway, so it's an easy stop for me.
Nice. Mike, I saw on your social media accounts, maybe this is a couple months ago, maybe not even that long ago, a pretty big announcement that I wanted to mention and talk to you about. So you recently announced that Roaming Road products will be distributed, I believe it's within the entire UK, and that's a huge deal for an American independent bottler, and should not be understated, the challenge there. So I wanted to ask you, how did that kind of come about? How did you make a business decision that you were going to be able to do that? And if you foresee any challenges of being on two continents at once?
Yes, I absolutely do. This was never part of the equation, never part of the plan, and it just kind of came about during my travels. And I don't know if I'm an idiot or I'm brilliant, but I guess we'll find out. But it takes a lot of time. So when I was traveling over to Ireland, I was actually doing the Irish whiskey casks, which are just released recently. That's the batch that I got on that trip. Just in and around Dublin with people in the industry and such. And I just noticed the lack of bourbons, rye whiskeys, single cask strength type stuff. The only thing you see is Woodford, Bulleit, all the big Diageo, Brown-Forman type stuff. And there's a lot of Americans living in and around Dublin, tens of thousands of them. And I know they're missing the good stuff from home. Over the years, I've accumulated, I don't know, 100 or 200 bourbon rye whiskey casks that I have. They're being stored at Bardstown Bourbon Company, who does all of my bottling and storage and operations for me in the U.S., by the way.
Nice.
And they are absolutely, I can't speak highly enough of them. Great people. They've taken care of, they work for the small brands. They help you out on things. just exceptional experience with them. So I have all those casks over there. I had no idea what I was going to do with them. So then I started thinking, well, what if I export these over to Ireland and kiss them? I use kiss in an Irish whiskey cask for an Irish influence and meld the two worlds with some bourbon centric, real bourbon. I don't want to lose that, but kiss it with some Irish influence. And so that started giving me the idea. And so since then, I've actually done that. I've exported casks over there. I just did Whiskey Live in Dublin in May when I was there. And
Cool.
many people, there's over 100 distilleries from Scotland and Ireland and the UK there. And a lot of people came to me and said, you got the best stuff in this entire place. Which was like really, really cool that I got that validation of something brand new because it's never been done over there. So that's what's prompted that. And so that's just accelerated from there is the U.S. Embassy now invited me to the July 3rd, July 4th celebration at the U.S. Embassy in Dublin with Roaming Road for 2,000 people.
Wow.
So now I'm going to be going next weekend back to Ireland for a month, and I'm going to do the embassy event, which is just huge exposure. Obviously American centric there for the 4th of July celebration. And a lot of people's going to get to try this stuff that's going to be available to them.
I didn't realize there were so many Americans in Ireland.
There is a lot of Americans. A lot of it is from the American companies that are there. The Irish tax rate is it's very, very favorable on the corporate tax rate in Ireland.
Small potatoes. Oh, that was a terrible joke. Sorry, God, I couldn't.
Oh my God.
You got to at least get one of those.
Yeah. It's coming at some point. So that's what started that. I also I try to stay abreast of spirits around the world. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn especially is huge to monitor trends and spirits and different things all over the world. So I'm very big into that. I subscribe to all this. I just absorb it all the time because I want to know what's going on in the world and these different spirits. And so London was coming up as a rum kind of up and comer over there in that London market. There were some rum bars that were popping up. And so that culture of rum was starting to come in. So I thought to myself, well, let's do cast rum as well and do that in the UK and the London market specifically. So I've worked that as well. I have rums over there. Well, I guess I'll tell you since I've already been pouring them. But I actually poured them at Whiskey Live too, just as an experiment of these rums. And one was a 19-year-old Haiti rum. One is a 15-year-old Trinidad, a 19-year-old Venezuela, and a 10-year-old Port Morant from Guyana.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
you're
I
already adding
those.
even more origins to the
I
table
am.
with Trinidad and Haiti. Yeah.
Yeah. The Haiti one is it's super cool and it is really, really good. And it's I think it's quite rare from where it comes from. You have a guess?
I mean, the first guess is always Barbancourt, but I'm guessing since you asked, it's not a Barbancourt rum.
Yeah. No, it is. It is actually.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Okay.
But at 19 years old, it's really, really good. So when I poured those at Whiskey Live, the whiskey people were like, "Oh my God, I had no idea rum could be this way." So those are future customers. That's the whole point of Liquid to Lips is getting these new people to rum.
Yeah.
It is boots on the ground. Yeah. I love bringing these people into the rum because they don't know what they're missing till they try it.
Yeah.
So that's part of that offering as well. So that's going to happen. And so that's happening, and that wasn't easy, but I just think there's an opportunity there, and it just kind of elevates the brand everywhere across the board. Two separate companies. I actually formed a company in Dublin.
Okay.
Yeah. I mentioned the tax rate,
Right.
so it made sense to do that. But it's exciting over there how much that's growing, in the potential opportunities. I'm hoping to be in 10 countries in 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
So
when do you plan to sleep?
I don't. I have to get directions back to my house anytime I'm actually here, because most of the time I'm on the road and it's for long periods of time. But it's just what it takes for right now. I just gotta keep pushing and keep grinding.
All right. Well, I have something I want to throw at you, Mike. This is where the show usually goes off the rails a little bit, but in the best possible of ways. So we sometimes, when we have our guests on, we like to offer, some free advice on marketing. Now, I have to say, you don't need any of this, Mike, because your marketing is pretty damn good. I think Will and I both actually agree on that, which is not often. So you probably don't need any of these. But, I figured we're here with you, might as well shoot our shot and give you some of our ideas. And then you can, rate them for us and give me
You keep putting "our" on this, but I'm pretty sure you came up with all. This is like the first time I'm hearing about any of it.
I'm spreading the risk.
So just take all the credit. You don't need to put any onto me. If these are really good ideas, you get all the credit. But if they're really bad ideas, you also get all the credit.
Excellent. All right, I'll take those.
Boy.
I'll take that bet.
Okay. Hit me, John.
All right, so 1 to 10, you give me, 10 is the best. Oh my God, I'm going to use this, and thank you so much, John. I'll come fly and give you a hug. And 1 is the holy crap, what the hell? I'm stupider for having heard this and I don't even want to see your next one. Okay.
Can I rate these too?
I mean, you haven't seen them. That's true. So, yeah, but you're going to be harsher.
Mike will do the first.
You got to let
rating,
Mike go first. Okay. All right. Here we go. I'm going to see if I can share my screen because I actually have these.
Oh, and, my God.
Yeah,
now you're scaring me. He's prepared for this.
I'm prepared for it. If I can get to the Zoom here so I can share my screen. There it is. All right, here we go. This is the first one. I'm going to read it to you, but I figured I have to show you because it kind of needs to be in print also. So, okay. Can you see that there okay? All right.
Yep.
So this is tagline number 1 for you.
God.
It's Roaming Road, where all roads lead to Rome. Spelled R-O-A-M.
This is specifically for a tagline?
Yeah, these are taglines for you. These are,
Do you know I have a tagline?
and yours is a little better than this one. Okay.
We go where the spirit takes us.
Okay, that's actually a pretty good one.
You mean you didn't want to make your tagline a dad joke pun?
No.
Well,
I mean I like it. I like mine better, so we'll go 3.
All right. Well, they don't get any better, so let's go to number 2 here. All right. Number two is roam if you want to, and trust me, you're gonna want to. No. Will, you didn't get to say number one. Also, what was the number 1's rating?
I mean, did I need to give it a rating? I feel like.
Yeah.
Is this a scale of 1 to 10?
Yes. Wait, were you not listening?
I'd put it at like an 8 for podcast joke material and a 2 for actual serious tagline.
Okay,
yeah.
Fine. And Mikey, your number for this one?
It was a 3.
That was a 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't listening also apparently. Okay. All right, number 2, Mike. Where are we going with this?
That's pretty bad. That's pretty cheeky. That's pretty cheeky, kind of cheesy. I'd go 2 on that one.
Okay, that's pretty bad.
Why is trust capitalized?
Just because it's important.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Also, you've got a space on one side of the M dash, but no space on the other side.
Isn't that how it's supposed to be?
No,
we can talk M dash grammar later.
Okay.
Will. Okay.
I mean, it's definitely not. You can do a space on either side or no spaces on either side, but you can't mix them. You can't do one space on one side and no space on the other.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that, so we can fight about this later. All right, Mike, this third one, I was going to ask you, if you don't mind, if you would read it. So if you don't mind reading this next one for me, and then you can rate it afterwards, that'd be great.
It's okay to say that you mind, Mike, by the way.
Yeah. Trust me, I would. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Go ahead.
All right. If not, if you decline, I'll go ahead and read it for you.
Do I badmouth myself? Is that why you're making me read it?
No. This is not going to badmouth you.
Okay,
don't worry. All right, here we go. Number 3.
I'm Mike Gilmore with Roaming Road, the rum bottler that gives you Gil more rum for Gil less.
So it's a value statement.
Wow.
Also really great, right?
Was 0 on your scale?
Oh, Jesus. Oh,
Thank you, Mike. Yeah,
fine.
Don't butter him up. Don't butter him up. We need bullying works sometimes, so.
Okay. I mean, Mike, you may not be drinking right now, and we are, which is adding to the fun of this. But, okay, last but not least.
There's a fourth one? I thought there's a fourth 3 one. Was it.
Nope, 4.
Oh,
at Roaming Road, we do the roaming, so you can do the drinking. A positive result for the last one. I'll take the head nod.
There was like a so-so kind of head nod, yeah.
6 Almost
Hey,
7.
all right.
Almost
Hey,
7.
there we go.
Yeah.
1 out of 4. Mike, I would drop 30 on you, like you said you're, but and then we
Just
get
like a
6 to
cast.
8 good ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I'll keep it to 4 for now. It's
All
fine.
right. You keep working on that. Just email
I'm gonna
me
do
that
that.
list. Yeah, yeah, you do that.
I'll keep my day job also.
That was fun.
Amazing. Well, normally there's another dumb segment. So are we doing the other one too, John?
It's up to Mike. If he's game for it, I'm game for it. But I don't know. I might have put him through the ringer already. Mike,
Okay.
we do the rapid fire segment usually, which I will be nicer with because of you're enduring the pain of that. A little nicer.
All right. I'll play.
Okay. All right.
All
He's
right.
in. He's in.
All I have to do is keep time for this one, so I'm in as well.
Excellent. Okay. So Will, you
can I pass or I got to answer?
You can pass. If you really have to pass, you pass. I mean,
You
I
can
just don't want to
pass.
sit here thinking for 30 seconds.
You can pass. It's just we'll judge you a little bit, but it's okay. That never hurt anybody.
all right. So we're going to
right.
put 60 seconds on the clock, Will, and we will go through. Our goal is short answers, as many as possible. We get through as many of these as we can and see what happens.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Hit it.
Got 60 seconds and go.
All right. Neat or on the rocks? We already
Neat.
answered this one. Neat. Column, pot, or blend?
Call them.
Oh, okay. Aged or unaged? We know the answer to that one.
Aged.
Cane juice, molasses, or other?
Molasses.
Okay. We established you were on the road a ton, so roaming road name. That makes perfect sense. If you were to expand the brand in one of the other methods of travel that you most often take, would it be roaming railway, roaming runway, roaming rocket?
Roaming airlines.
Yeah, I was trying to keep the alliteration, but yes, I get you. All right. You and Roaming Road obviously have a big connection with Wyoming, where you are, which is known as the Cowboy State and has Yellowstone, like you mentioned. As a Wyomingite, how accurate is the TV show Yellowstone?
It's actually pretty accurate. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Interesting.
Yep.
All right. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm gonna get there. It's on the
Yeah.
list.
We have
All
a
right.
train station in Wyoming too. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I thought it was just horses out there. That's all. All right. Finish this sentence. The rum from Spain falls mainly on the blank.
Falls mainly on the blank.
Nobody knows My Fair Lady
I
anymore.
have no idea what this means, John.
Jeez.
I'm a little lost on that one.
All right.
It's a
Well,
My Fair Lady reference?
yes, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. None of you are cultured.
I grew up in a Broadway family, but I didn't.
All right,
I
well.
didn't get that one.
So that
I
was
was-
a movie reference I was supposed to get?
and a play
Okay,
also.
sorry.
But my answer was the rum from Spain falls mainly on the rum influencer shortlist for rum of the year. Maybe.
Oh.
Will is like, wow.
I still don't get it. No,
That's
I still
better
don't
than
get
your
it.
taglines.
Yep. All right. Would you ever consider bottling an unaged rum?
No.
Okay.
All right.
What about doing your own aging?
Yes.
Okay. Did we establish? You said the KISS method,
Which is
right?
in the works, by the way.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, we'll have to talk about that in a second. All right, you mentioned the KISS method where you were just talking a minute ago. Is that just a short-term finish? Like, what is the border for a KISS method?
It's brand new to me. I'm experimenting with that right now, so I don't know if it takes 2 weeks or 2 months.
Okay.
The barrel will tell me when it's ready to go.
Can we agree that if it goes too long, you have to call it a French kiss or maybe second base?
Yes. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. That's fine.
Okay. See, hey, once in a while.
That is the emphasis on actually.
Yeah, actually.
And finally, Rainbow Road is the famous level from Super Mario Kart that had people throwing their game controllers across the room because it was so darn difficult. We may need to ask about this in more detail later, and if there's a story behind it, but for now, I just want to know, has there ever been one of your releases that was much more difficult to procure than any of the others and earned the title of being the Rainbow Road of Roaming Road?
It's not a rum.
Okay, that's fine.
It was a cognac cask that was a pain in the ass. So yeah. I
All
would
right.
say I know it's not rum, but it was a cognac cask that was a pain.
That's our time, by the way.
Okay. But what was such a pain in the ass about it? Now I need to know.
Learning a different country about how they do things, and the BNIC and the AOC for cognacs and all of that good
Ah, that
stuff,
makes
and
sense,
Oh
actually.
yeah.
Okay.
the yeah, begging for forgiveness of doing things differently, and yeah,
Yeah.
I was just
one of those.
I was just telling John that I went to a French wines tasting this past week. My wife and I went, and I kind of consider myself someone who knows a little bit about spirits classifications and things from all the rum stuff that we've done. And my head was spinning like through that tasting, trying to
Yeah,
explain the French systems for everything. So, yeah, I can imagine.
Makes
yeah.
sense.
One of the many joys of trying to buy casks in different countries. They're all
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, by the way, we totally like glossed over you mentioned the 32-year-old cognac Grand Champagne, which you sell at $149 a bottle. How is that even possible?
The cognac's not a big market in the U.S. And I think it's just strictly liquid to lips because everybody that I sample it to, and throw it in there everywhere I go. I think there's might be a little bit in your box actually,
Yep.
for you to try.
I tried that one last night and really enjoyed it. You would think 32 years would be too much, and it's definitely oak. Like there's definitely oak present in there,
Yeah,
but I still get the fruit. It's extremely sippable, and I mean it's 44%, which most stuff that ages for that long, the ABV is going to come down, right? But
yeah,
it's
yeah. I was happy to find it at 88 because it is cast
yeah,
strength. They didn't do
yeah.
anything to it.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you,
What
thank you.
was nice for me also about it, I mean, obviously it's a special experience to get to experience that, but also what was nice about it was I'm not a huge cognac or brandy drinker. And so when I was able to try some of these, it really started to inform my palate a lot more on the ex cognac casks finish that we have. The Mauritius one that you have, and some of the other ones that I've tried. I know that sounds a little, maybe late in a way,
Yeah, yeah,
because I've tried a lot of rum and a lot of ex cognac, but it gave me that indication. I was like, okay, I'm starting to get it now. So I almost want to encourage people who are rum drinkers, if you haven't done that because you've been like me and you've stayed in mostly the whiskey and the rum worlds, try to venture out a little bit. It helps.
yeah, yeah. It's super important. I'm trying to bring everybody out to different spirits because there's some great stuff around the world. And you have a whiskey bourbon background, John, and I was hoping that cognac you'd find that an easy step because it is quite different than most people any cognac they've ever had.
Have
Being
you
that old,
have you done any Calvados, Mike?
I have not, but it's coming.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I have very limited French brandy experience, but of all the types, I've had a little bit of cognac, I've had a little bit of Armagnac, which I think you threw an Armagnac sample in there as
yeah.
well, which I
I
haven't
did.
tried yet, but I'm looking forward to. But Calvados is the one out of all of those, like when there are several bottles that I've had where I've just been like, oh, like this is something different and like really in my wheelhouse. So I'll look out for
Yeah,
when your
I
bottles come to
absolutely,
market.
I love Calvados. It's so good. It's that apple distillate, and I just love that apple base.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pear distillate as well that they're
Right.
doing for Calvados or pear blend with apple.
Yeah, yeah.
And that pear adds something really good when you have
Hmm.
that mixture. So yeah, that's coming very soon. And I'm excited for it because I love Calvados, especially when you get into the 30, 40-year-old range.
Okay, I've not had any in that range, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We do have to revisit really quick before we wrap up John's question during the rapid fire segment about unaged rum. You said that's probably not in the cards in the future, which is totally respectable. But you mentioned you may be aging some on your own. Can you tell us any more about that?
It's brand new. We
Okay.
just basically came to the plan that what we're going to do. It's super exciting. I can't go into a lot of detail, but we're going to do some aging in Kentucky. The distillate is being made outside the U.S. We're doing. I think we're going to do 10 casks, thousand liters for 10 casks. Five are going to be pot still. Five are going to be heavy rum, or I'm sorry, heavy column.
Okay.
And we're going to experiment with different cask types and see what Kentucky does aging for a actual rum starting at distillate. It's a 10 cask experiment and it may work, it may not, but I think we'll know in 2 to 2.5, 3 years, especially in Kentucky because it's getting hammered, how that's going to go, what it's going to look like. We'll have an idea which way it's going, which is it's just exciting. I like doing that kind of stuff. I've got some rums that are in Kentucky now that I recast into different things last year. that I'm playing with. So I love doing that kind of stuff and just kind of bring a different profile of something unique. So
So
yeah,
knowing that extreme hot, humid summer, and then the temperature swings in the winter and everything, knowing that that's coming, how did that impact your cask selection for those rums? Where did you start and where did you end up?
I wanted a profile of different things, so I've used some Buffalo Trace casks. Jack Daniels is one of my favorites for rums, quite frankly, because of the high corn content on the mash bill.
Yeah.
It just does really really well with rum. In my mind, in Kentucky, I think would be better because in the Caribbean, it's getting hammered 12 months out of the year. Because even in the winter time, it is still 70 degrees, 75, 80 degrees in some of these locations. So you're not getting a lot of in and out of barrel influence that you will in Kentucky because it's teens in the wintertime. So it's pushing all that stuff out. So you're going to get a lot more wood interaction with this rum distillate. And we went heavy. That's why we did heavy column and we went pot still so it can hold up to that. But again, it's just theory in my mind. To me, I think it's going to work and it could be quite unique. But it's fun to do that kind of stuff.
And these are in Bardstown then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm in Nashville, so I'm not too far away. So if you need someone to go and kind of check
Check
how,
on 'em.
how things are progressing, just
Yeah.
just give me
You're
a call.
2.5 hours
Yeah.
from Nashville. I mean, I'm in Kentucky all the time. So I will, matter of fact, I'm going to be there in August for 1792 barrel that we're picking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for the store. So I'll reach out to you, and if you want to come over and you actually
me
want to
know.
go
Yeah.
on the 1792 pick,
Yeah.
and then we'll go and we'll actually drill some rum casks in Bardstown.
Let's do it.
Out of my inventory. We'll do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, anything we didn't get to, we didn't cover that you want people to know about?
No, just the fact that I'm gonna continue to try to bring unique spirits, things that are different, things that are really good to the market all the time. Being single cask, this stuff goes out and it's gone. Something else will come right behind it. And so I'll just try to keep it fresh and just keep the pattern of consistency of what I'm bringing. So I hope people like it and continue to support the brand as we grow.
All right. Well, we'll put
Awesome.
a link in the show notes where people can go to your website and you have stuff available to order there. So we appreciate you coming by and
Yeah.
look forward to all the rums you're going to bring. And I'm also going to be keeping an eye out for some Calvados bottles as
Yeah,
well. So
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing.
Yeah.
Roaming Road is the brand of the month for Florida Rum Society in July. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're going to be doing some events down there at Autos and Five
Autos
Star
High
and
Dive.
some
Yeah, it's
other.
great.
Yep. So the Ireland embassy thing jumped up on me, so I obviously have to attend that. So Brian Inman is going to step in my place, the rum champion for Roaming Road. He knows the brand, he knows what I do, he knows the product. So look for a blitz into Florida because we're going to start expansion there. New York is coming online for distribution. Maryland's going to come online. California's online now. So we're just slowly going into select locations. It's got to be stores that understand the product and appreciate it. I'm not knocking on doors to every liquor store down the street. It's very selective of where we go.
That
Cool.
makes sense.
Yeah.
John, keep an eye out for it down there.
I was gonna say it's the Brian to Jay connection there, and
Yeah.
at some point maybe you make it into South Florida. Although this market is ridiculously tough.
It's
for rum.
yeah. I've heard it is, and I have thoughts on it, but I probably shouldn't say it here. So
We'll talk later.
yeah, we'll talk later. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike. All right, everyone, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Rumcast. We'll put some links in the show notes to the Roaming Road website so you can check that out. You can get all the details on those releases and everything. And also, as we said in the intro, John and I did record a full bonus episode tasting through 6 of the rums. It was Mauritius, Spain, Dominican Republic,
Belize.
Jamaica, Thailand. We got them
Yeah.
together. That's teamwork. So anyway, if you want to check that out, you can go to patreon.com/therumcast. That's patreon.com/therumcast and check that out. We're doing bonus episodes every month. We're doing happy hours, all kinds of fun stuff. And if you've already tasted some of these rums, or if you have more questions, thoughts, takes you want to share, send us an email, as always, host@rumcast.com. It's HOST@rumcast.com. Or you can find us on social media. John, where can they find us?
at the Rumcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and you can hear, if you listen to our bonus episode, why Will was wrong on his order versus mine, and then let us know that I was right.
Oh yeah, we ranked our preferences on the releases. So we had at least one major disagreement. So that was pretty fun.
It's been a while, Will.
We've been too in sync lately,
Yeah.
so it felt good to kind of bare knuckle box a little bit with you.
Agreed. So we need the people to let us know, where are you at when you try these rums, and vindicate me, please.
Which side are you on? Let us know. Social media or email. We'll look forward to hearing from you. But until next time, John, cheers.
Cheers.